What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Strange Planet Podcast, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how George Santos was expelled from the House of Representatives. And then we will also be covering the Bob Menendez bribery and foreign influence situation that he's involved in. But I guess to start off, we're going to talk about George Santos here, which I believe was a long time coming. But Mark, Rook, what do you guys have to say about this?
I'll definitely say that I agree with you that this has definitely been a long time coming. I mean, he lied on everything he said during his campaign to get elected, and the fact that it took this long to get him out just shows that we need to do some major overhauling in our, governmental system at this point. The fact that he got through in the first place it's sad.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And the funny thing is this guy lies so much that, I wonder if George Santos is even his name. You know what I mean? He could possibly have lied more than Trump himself, which, if you could believe that.
Let's actually rehash some of his lies. Let's see. He said that he attended and played volleyball at Rook College, which he didn't do.
False.
He said that he worked at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, which he didn't do. He said that he owned a lot of rental properties, which he doesn't. He said that at one point he attended NYU, didn't do that. He lied about being Jewish. He's not. He lied about, there was a veteran who had a service animal, a service dog, and I guess he raised funds for this dog's surgery, using this disabled veteran. And he took the money. He never gave it for the dog's surgery.
Wow.
And the dog died. He also lied and received unemployment benefits. Yeah, that's not good. He also lied about saying that his mom died in 9/11. And then he later said that, actually, she didn't die on the day of 9/11, but she died of cancer in 2016, and that was related to the 9/11 attacks. You know how there's people who are down ground zero, first responders and people who worked there. A lot of them had contracted cancer. And Jon Stewart actually has been very vocal on this issue in terms of securing funds for Congress for those people. But he said that his mom, after it was clear that she wasn't even in the country on 9/11, then he changed to say that she died of cancer related to 9/11. And that both of those were lies.
More lies. He said his grandmother was a Holocaust victim or something like that.
Right, but he's not Jewish.
Makes no damn sense.
So he, on his first campaign, his donors, he stole their credit cards and made charges on them. He was wanted for stealing, I think, a wallet, if I remember, in Brazil. Oh, one more major lie is he lied about having workers that were victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida. That was also a lie.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, and those are just, some of his lies. He pretty much lied about, I don't know what's left to tell the truth about, because, when you're first getting to know a first-time candidate as a voter, you don't have a record to look at in Congress. You look at who the person is and their background and what they've accomplished in their personal lives prior to public life. And we don't know anything about them. So that's just a quick rehash of, or as quick as one can do it comprehensively, of his lies. And, I think when we are looking for a public official, politicians aren't known for being the most truthful people, but in a room full of people who have trouble with issues, being trouble with the truth in terms of, politicians aren't always known for being completely honest and forthright, but he stood out as possibly the biggest liar in Washington.
There's no denying that. And the list goes on, too. These were just a few. If you were to check for yourself for more information, you'll find a lot more. You'll find...
Did he ever care that he's gay? Wasn't he married?
Okay, so he was married prior to running for Congress, and then he went through a divorce at some point while he was running.
I wonder why.
Or, that part is kind of unclear. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's gay, I guess. Just because someone's married to someone of the opposite sex doesn't necessarily mean that their sexual orientation is what they claim it to be. There's a lot of closeted homosexual people who are married to the opposite sex, and then later that could be why, the divorce happened. And so who knows? At this point, we don't really know about much of his personal life, and now we don't have to, considering he's no longer a congressman. But for $350, you can get a personal video from George Santos. He will actually record a video for you. There's one of him singing a Taylor Swift song for someone. There's another, singing Happy Birthday. So this is something, it's just shameless. It's like doing anything for a buck.
It's not normal behavior, man.
Like, this guy is completely disgraceful, and he knows it. He knows how shameful he is, but yet, I guess he's got to pay his lawyers because he's in some deep shit.
Wow. The fact that he got through on those lies,
and the fact that there are people willing to pay him to do anything after all of those lies.
And the fact that he was there for almost a full year is also interesting.
What district was he in?
He was in a Long Island district, actually. And it appears he will be replaced by Tom Suozzi, who's...
I was about to ask that. Yeah, who his replacement was going to be.
Well, the governor gets to appoint a replacement, and Tom Suozzi is a longtime Long Island-based politician. He actually ran for governor some years ago. And, yeah, it looks like he's... a shoo-in for being selected for the position. We'll see what happens. But in any case, it's going to be a Democrat. And that was pretty much a tough choice for Republicans to make when they voted to expel him, because they already have a thin majority. You saw how long it took them to select a speaker. And
oh, man. Yeah.
And so if they get in that sort of trouble again in terms of speaker selection, or if the current speaker has a vote of no confidence, you're going to see it a little bit tougher this time around because there's one fewer Republican. And Santos was a reliable Republican vote for Mike Johnson there. So he's lost himself a vote.
Well, that's a good thing for the bigger picture, I guess.
Right. But actually, in thinking about the bigger picture, this is actually a problem for Democrats. And we'll talk about Bob Menendez in a second and how there may be pressure on him now on Democrats to get rid of Bob Menendez.
Right.
But what I was thinking is that this could be a problem for Democrats because they are now subject to expulsion from Republicans. Now, this is in the Constitution, the House, without going through an impeachment, which is a normal process for public officials. You have the House and the Senate have to vote to charge and then remove someone from office. Expulsion is, just a House procedure, and unilaterally in the House, they can vote to remove a publicly elected official. And some Democrats have raised this concern. We all know that Republicans have a history of abusing rules. We've seen this with the Supreme Court when Mitch McConnell just decided not to hold a hearing for Obama's Supreme Court pick, Merrick Garland.
Right, right.
There's sort of a willingness to bend or ignore rules when it suits them politically. So now that we have sort of set a precedent for expelling a member of Congress based on allegations, now, to be clear, the allegations against George Santos are very damning. There's so many of them. And, he's subject to a whole litany of indictments and also just personal credibility issues that are overwhelming. However, what's not to say that Republicans will identify a Democrat to expel from Congress? Maybe one of the squad members, they could just target them for expulsion and hold a vote and say, you know what? The Republicans have the majority in Congress right now, and they could just vote to expel one of the squad members. So it had to be done. It was the right thing to do, but politically, it could also be problematic in the future going forward.
This is kind of strange, too, because nothing like this has really ever happened before, has it? To this extent, at least.
Well, there have been members of Congress expelled before. It's not many, and it isn't really all that recent. However, all of the members that have been expelled previously were convicted of crimes. They've gone through the complete legal process. And so that was some of the concern that Republicans expressed, and now Democrats have expressed as well, is that George Santos didn't receive a full trial. He's still on trial, but we didn't wait to see the outcome of that trial before expelling him. Now, the evidence is so overwhelming against George Santos that I think any member of the public could clearly see that he's a liar, that he's a cheat, that he's a scam artist. There's no way that he could overcome the overwhelming evidence against him.
Right.
And yet, because we didn't wait for that verdict or any number of verdicts or a conviction, that has opened the door somewhat for Republicans to take a less stringent approach when it comes to expelling members of Congress that they don't like, namely Democrats. All right, so with that being said, there is also the issue of Bob Menendez. Now, Senator Menendez from New Jersey, where do we start with him?
Yeah.
He is, let's just say, shame on him. Because some years ago, I think it was maybe back in 2013, he was also on trial, and this had to do with foreign influence and bribery, and the jury in that trial was unable to come to a conclusion, agree on a verdict as to whether Menendez was guilty or not. And so he got to continue on as a senator, and one would think that after going through such public scrutiny for ethics, and it was a close call because some jury members thought he was guilty. The prosecution in that case decided not to retry the case, which they could have after a mistrial. You would think that he would be more careful. But yet, now here he is again. He's being tried for conspiracy to commit bribery, conspiracy to commit honest services fraud, conspiracy to commit extortion under the color of official right, that means his official duty, and conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And this all has to do with some Egyptian businessmen and Egyptian officials in terms of bribing them and trying to get, he's taking bribes in order to give them certain foreign policy benefits and business benefits. And so both him and his wife are charged, and they face up to 20 years in prison. Now, this trial is set to begin in January 2024, and that's not good for Democrats because that's the start of an election year.
Right.
And you don't want a person who was the chair of the Foreign Services Committee, and actually, let me scratch that. He was the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. It's a Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It's the Foreign Services Committee in the House. You don't want the person who was the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee to be charged with being influenced improperly by foreign nationals. You don't want that to be an election topic in an election year in which you are running against Donald Trump, who is also under suspicion for accepting foreign money and having improper foreign relations. And after George Santos was expelled from Congress by Republicans, you don't want Democrats to even have the air of looking like a party that's willing to put up with their members engaging in corruption. And so this looks really bad. I mean, Bob Menendez was caught allegedly with gold bars and cash, like wads of cash stuffed in the coat pockets of his coats in his closets. Now, when agents go in there and open a closet and find a bunch of coats with envelopes stuffed with money
and gold bars,
that does not look good. Okay,
no, it doesn't.
What is someone doing with multiple coats with their pockets with envelopes of, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash? What are they doing with that? There's honestly no reasonable explanation that you could provide for that
At all.
And so it looks like Bob Menendez, unfortunately, might be a corrupt Jersey politician, which he wouldn't be the first, and I'm sad to say it probably won't be the last.
Yeah.
But it's just an unfortunate situation for Democrats because he is or was a very powerful senator, and now he's trying to blame it on, they're coming after him because he's Hispanic, or please, just don't take bribes.
Yeah.
Take
right?
bribes from foreign officials. Don't, stuff your coat pockets full of envelopes of cash. Don't have gold bars laying around your house like a supervillain or something. This is comic book criminal stuff.
It really is.
You just can't make it up.
Seriously, it sounds
And he's
like
him and his wife are going to have a hell of a time convincing a jury that this time, as well, it's all a big misunderstanding.
Sounds like he's an example of someone that didn't learn from the first time here, and now it's
he was lucky. He apparently got away with it the first time because the jury couldn't come to an agreement. He was given a second chance, and just a few years later, because this didn't start last year, this started several years ago and continued.
wow.
Yeah, it seems like he just might have let a few years pass and then, was back playing the dirty game again.
Right, he just let some time pass, and he was like, all right, well, now they forgot, and time is gone, so...
Yeah, no, he probably felt he was invincible after Jury couldn't convict him. And so, hey, why not just keep the money rolling in?
Right. Yes.
And so what do you guys think? Should Democrats get rid of him now, or should they wait until he goes through a full trial? What do you guys think?
Oh man, that's a very hard situation. That's a very tough answer to say there, because there's a lot riding on it, and you would hope if, say, they did, and I mean, that would be considered the
They did what?
Like, say they do get rid of him, that would be the right thing to do, realistically. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like you were saying, during an election year, that could also be that's not a good look either, but it's also, you look at it on the flip side, and it's like, you can't not do it just because it's an election year either. You know what I mean? So it's a sticky situation.
I was going to say, you look at it like this. You have an election year where officials are going to be going out on the campaign trail and saying, look at these corrupt Republicans. Well, you can't say that they're protecting George Santos anymore. George Santos is gone.
Right.
He can't be really used in a political campaign sense. But you're going to send like Cory Booker out there saying that don't elect Donald Trump, he's corrupt, when his colleague, fellow New Jersey senator, is on trial for these bribery charges.
Right.
And
it's just not a good look.
like, you're going to have senators out there who are going to be in a tough position trying to say, don't elect the corrupt Republicans, when they haven't really done anything besides maybe condemn Bob Menendez, but they haven't taken action on him. And so, obviously, we discussed before the whole precedent of, removing publicly elected officials from office without a conviction. It is a tough call, because you're substituting political judgment for the citizen's will, and that's never an easy thing to do.
Right. And I mean, if you take a look at just the facts of the matter here, like, he kind of did this to himself, or maybe he thought he was going to get away with it again, or people would look the other way, or, you know what I mean? So, like, technically it's almost a situation where it's like you made the bed, now you got to lay in it. You know what I mean? So seems like the right idea might be to remove, but there could be a ripple effect with that too. But then there'd be even bigger ripple effect if you don't. So, so it's a very strange situation, but I mean, facts are facts in the end, right? So you got to do the right thing in the end, you would think.
Right, but then you'll have, when Republicans have power, like they do in the House, or like they might in the Senate in the future, or if, God forbid, Trump gets reelected and he gets put in charge of our Justice Department again, you could have politically motivated prosecutions against the president's enemies, many of whom are Democrats,
Right.
some of whom are Republicans, but many of whom are Democrats. And he could go after them with politically motivated prosecutions, like he suggests that, the prosecutions are politically motivated against him. So he'll have no problem saying, hey, Justice Department, go get that senator over there who voted to impeach me or to remove me. He is going to do that if he gets in office. He pretty much has said it himself.
Right.
And so if he is president, you best believe that there's going to be a large majority of his party willing to back him up on that. And after another election, there may be even more Trumpers in office, because you have people like Liz Cheney, and she's gone, and Mitt Romney is not running for re-election. The more sensible, moderate Republicans seem to have no place in the party anymore. And yeah, you'll just have, a lot of Trump loyalists ready to do Trump's bidding when it comes to removing Senate or House colleagues.
basically the party of Trump. He's slowly turning it into basically his, minions more or less. And that's a scary situation. And when it comes full circle here, it's kind of like, yeah, what Bob Menendez, what he did, it was bad. But it's like, at the same time, I mean, Republicans, they've been known to not pay attention to rules and take away rights. And they've done a lot of, harmful things as well, too. So it's almost like it's like balancing out in a sense. But you know what I mean? But like, this is not a
Right. But I would like to think that the Democrats have more integrity than that. We have in the past, and I hope we continue to do so and not purely look for political expediency. Because if both parties are just focused on doing what's right for politics instead of doing what's right, then our country is doomed, because neither side is going to be looking out for the public's best interest.
That's 100% right. It really is. And if you look at just where we stand right now, currently, Democrats weren't the ones to take away any kind of rights from women, if you know what I mean. And like, yeah, you know what I mean? So like,
Republicans would love nothing more than for Democrats to get down in the mud with them, because that would insulate them from any charges of being corrupt, or, would completely nullify any sort of criticism, because you would just claim, hypocrisy. They complained about corruption of Trump. Well, look, Bob Menendez is still in there. They didn't vote to remove him.
Yes, that's a very good point. That's a very good point there. And that's what I was going to say in general. Even if you take that aside, just Trump himself in general is a poison. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're comparing both sides, even with this, it's still incomparable in the long run. You know what I mean? Because there's only one side so far that's taken away rights, trying to do whatever the hell they want. It's just like it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't compute in the long run. It really don't. I still think maybe this should be resolved, but at the same time, like, it so seems Trump can do whatever the hell he wants, and that's fine, right?
I think it's important for Democrats to not just become the party at least we're not Trump.
Right. That's a very good point. It's got to be more than that. It can't just be, or against that,
How about you, Mark? What do you think about Menendez? Should Democrats force him out, or should they wait for the trial to conclude?
I think that Democrats should stay the line of, let's see what happens with the results. I mean, it would be definitely to their detriment, I think, if they were to jump the gun and to say, let's just vote him out. I mean, yeah, he has a history, and it's probably going to happen anyway, but I would, get the trial going, then maybe do the same thing with George Santos.
Yeah, I mean, the trial starts in January, so they could wait until maybe some damning new details emerge from the trial, and then that's when they make their move on him. That's certainly a possibility. But again, that's more in the direction of political expediency rather than what's right.
Yeah. All
right. In this sense, this not being his first offense, he was mistrial the first time, but that doesn't mean he's not guilty the first time. So that tends to lean on he should be picked out as soon as possible, just to kind of save face. But by doing that, it would seem like, Republicans, on a side note, can spin anything trying to sound like it's in their favor. So if we do jump the gun and kick him out early, they'd be like, oh, look at them kicking him out because they have something else to hide. They're trying to save face, versus us trying to let cards play out, and then when things are done, then his time is done. We'll move on. Or even in the middle when something, like you said, damning comes out. So that could be them be like, oh, look, they're trying to save him as much as possible. Which, they're doing with Trump, which is still, to my mind, remarkable that people can still look at Trump and even if you're in the vicinity of a Trumper and you're talking about, any of the allegations he's going through, what's the first thing they all talk about? Oh, well, Hunter Biden and blah, blah, blah. Hunter Biden didn't try to change democracy, didn't try to make America a fascist country with a dictator. Because that's essentially what was going to happen. I mean, people in this country have very short memories. And the first election with Hillary Clinton, he was claiming election fraud before he even won. So that kind of was on his face, but he blew that over and kept on with emails. And from that point on, he's always been like, yeah, I should probably run a second term and a third term because they owe me that too. And well, man, maybe I should stay president for as long as I can. That's the next step. So it was already in my view, that he was setting up to try to be a dictator. Because if we look at who his role models are, Putin,
Kim Jong-un.
Yep.
Putin, Kim Jong-un, you know what I mean? It's just like, these are dictators.
Yeah. And even at some of his Klan rallies, he's got sometimes he's got sayings that literally sound like they're straight from Hitler. Like, scary as hell when you hear it too.
It really is scary as hell because something like this to happen in America, where we go from a democracy to any other form of government, it would have to happen under the cover of darkness or in plain sight, like it's happening now. But it really is scary to think that we are literally on the edge of just complete disaster for our country. I mean, that sounds extreme, and maybe it is, but if he's elected president again and gets away from most of these allegations and doesn't get more than a slap on the wrist, I am seriously considering leaving this country. Because this country will no longer be a democracy. In 10 years, 5 years, however long it takes for him to get complete control with all his cronies placed in the right positions, this country is going to get flushed down the toilet really fast.
It's funny you said that. I agree.
But, you can see it happening. It's almost like it's handwritten in like a how to take over a country book. And people don't see this. They're just like, oh, no, he's just, he's fighting for his rights because he should have been president. Like, no, he tried to take over the government to stop them from electing the elected president.
Basically.
I don't know. It's frustrating living in this country sometimes.
It really is.
You want the freedom to have all opinions mix and come up with solutions. When all opinions are mixing like oil and water, it is just singularities floating everywhere, nothing's melting together. You get this mishmash of just chaos. And it's confusing, and we just don't know what to believe. I mean, not when it comes to Trump, because we can see the writing on the wall for what it is, but I don't know.
Apparently not everybody knows. That's the weird part. But I was just going to say, I can't understand how, especially after we've already had a 4-year term of this clown, too, and, they've gotten nothing. If anything, women lost rights. I don't know how that doesn't strike as alarming to people, because this could be the beginning of now you losing rights. If he were to win, are we even going to have elections after that?
And to be clear, he did claim in a rally that he did take the rights from women. He's like, yeah, Roe v. Wade, I did that.
Yeah, he's proven it.
That was said.
Yeah,
I was like, no, he didn't do that. Yeah, no, he did.
Yeah, that's not something to be proud of. That's alarming for women in any red state right now.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's really the will of the people that can change the country.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We have to get that will to really come out this next election, just to be safe. Because I think once this cloud is put away again, I think you said it, G, that it'll be for good.
It might be over. Yeah,
we might not hear from the beast again.
Exactly. If we could slay the beast one more time this time, I think this could be the last time. Yeah, so that's one hopeful way of looking at it, I guess. But
I just know what I just want to wake up in the morning, feel like that I don't have to be worried in the direction this country is going, that there is a future for me, my children, and, generations beyond that.
Right.
It does not look that way now. So, politicians, if you're out there and you could make this happen, do it. Otherwise, stay off my lawn.
And that's our show for this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications. Strange Planet will have new episodes on YouTube every Friday. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.